Good morning, everybody, and thanks very much for joining this live webinar. Today's subject is going to be about getting social with Salesforce.com. So, what we're going to be looking today is how to actually build an integration between a source system that could be a flat file or a database or an application such as Salesforce, and actually somehow use search keywords that are then pushed against Twitter, and then those results are pulled back into Salesforce.com. So we're going to see how we can actually do that in a very quick and clean and easy manner using Informatica Cloud. So to participate in today's session, what you're going to need is a developerforce.com account, which you can get from Force or developer.force.com. You also will need an Informatica Cloud account, and then you will need access to our Twitter plugin, which you're going to see how we actually use that and how you can build your own plugins to expand the functionality with Informatica Cloud. Okay, so the architecture of what we're going to be looking at today looks something very similar to what you can see on the screen right now. There's three tiers that we're going to be going through. So we start off with the first tier, which is going to be a source system where we actually keep all of our flat files, and that flat file will have one row with a load of arguments that we're going to actually pass into the Twitter search API. So these arguments are things such as how many results you expect, do you want popular results, you can choose time stamping, so you only may want tweets that are beyond a certain time frame. You can have mixed results. There's quite a large scope of parameters you can pass through to the Twitter search API. Then after that, what we do is those arguments are then passed into the Twitter API, and this plugin we've actually built using Informatica Power Center. So these plugins you can actually build on your own, or you can actually find them on the Informatica Marketplace to actually use with your own Informatica Cloud account. Alright, so we'll have a look as well at how we actually use Twitter and how the API actually works. And then finally, those tweets that we search for in the plugin will be inserted into our Salesforce.com org. Now, what's the typical type of use case that you would do something like this for? I mean, it's pretty nifty that you can just search for tweets in this way, but why would you do something like this? So a very common requirement that we've had from a couple businesses who are very concerned about their public image, or they want to be able to actually respond to requests from their customers as quickly as possible using social media, is a thing called sentiment analysis. So what a lot of companies do today is they can actually monitor what's actually happening on on social networks. Okay, not on Salesforce, but on social networks. So they could sit and watch streams on things like Twitter. You could be watching Facebook, Google Plus, and you can actually pick up what people are saying about your brand or your company, and maybe they're unhappy with some services that you may be offering. And this is a way for you to reach out to those customers incredibly quickly and let them know that you are listening and that you're taking some form of action. So in this particular case, we're going to build an integration where we're constantly searching for a certain keyword on Twitter, and then those results of those keyword searches are going to be pushed into Salesforce as a case object. Now, Salesforce, we could then have a team monitoring those case objects in Salesforce, and then they can take some form of action based on what those tweets are saying. Okay, so nice and quick and easy way to get something like this up and running very quickly. So let's have a look and see how we do things. So the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to need a flat file with some arguments inside it, and these could just be a couple parameters, and these parameters look something very similar to what we see here on the Twitter Search API. So if you just search for Twitter Search API, you will actually get this result. okay, as the first result, and it's actually going to be a get search. So it's literally like typing something into your browser, adding the correct parameters, hitting enter, and then you will get some XML results. Okay, now the particular comments that you're very interested in is the Q parameter. So you would put in something such as a query, like a search term. So it could be a hashtag, it could be an @ name of a particular account. A callback would be useful for things like JSON, if you're doing this call through Ajax. Geocoding data, language, locale, page, whole set of things in here. Okay, most important by far is always going to be the Q parameter. Okay, so this is an example of if we actually fired off the search query when we searched for Twitter API and we said we wanted a mixed result with 5 results, we would actually get a JSON response. Now we're actually going to get an XML response, and we're going to see how those results are used inside Informatica Cloud. So just remember that dev.twitter.com, underneath the docs section, look at the search API and look at the search query term. Now, for Twitter, let's search for, it's a nice fresh Monday morning here in London, so I'm just going to look for Mondays and see what the Twitterverse is saying. So some people are saying Mondays are even better when you start the day with blueberry pancakes. Okay, I can agree with that. Um, let's have a look now and see how do we search for those Twitter keywords. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to be putting these tweets into case objects inside Salesforce.com. So first navigate into your force.com account. You're then going to open up the setup view. Okay, we're then going to go to the customize view under app setup, customize, and then navigate to the cases object. So open up cases objects and then click on the fields view. So what we're doing here is we're actually going to build a field called tweet ID. Now I actually already have that existing here, but for you folks out there, you're going to have to click new, choose a text field type. Okay, so text, then click next, and then in that field type you can just give the field the name tweet ID. Alright, the length, it never really has to be longer. I mean, you can put 255 just to be safe, and your field is pretty much ready. Now, something very important that you need to do under here is you have to click external ID. Check that box. What this means is that we're going to take the tweet ID that we get from Twitter and we're going to populate this field inside Salesforce. Now that is a very good way to ensure we don't keep pulling in duplicate tweets, and it's also a way for us to almost have a delta or a vector in time. So we can say this particular tweet ID is the largest tweets that I have. Only give me tweets that go after this tweet ID. So then you're not constantly bringing in duplicate tweets over time and effectively slowing down your search. Okay, so once you've done that, just click next. I don't have to, as I've already got this field existing. I'll just cancel out of that. And then if we go to our cases view, I can see I currently have no open cases, so we've got nothing in there. So now we can start actually building the task that we're going to use. Now, before, again, another prerequisite, before we can actually start using Twitter specifically, or if you wanted to build your own plugin, you're going to have to upload that plugin into Informatica Cloud. Now, I've obtained this Twitter plugin, so I'm now inside my Informatica Cloud account. If I navigate to configuration, plugins, I can then get a list of all the different plugins that are available to my various integration tasks. Okay, now if I created a new plugin, I could name this, Twitter search plugin. And then I would actually upload some XML. So that XML that you create, if you're doing this through Power Center or if you purchase this through the Informatica Marketplace, you would actually receive an XML document that describes everything that actually happens inside that plugin. So in particular for Twitter, I've created a plugin where I'm accepting a load of arguments such as the search query term, a tweet ID or a since date, and then what I'm doing is I'm actually going and making that API call. Okay, those results then come back to me as an XML result, and then I'm stripping out the particular values I'm most interested in, and then those get output in my plugin. So that plugin I would upload via this view. Once it's uploaded, I'll then have a new pop-up which actually shows my Twitter search feed. I can then open that Twitter search feed, and we can see there my input fields with all of the different results or arguments I'm expecting, and then my output fields, which are all the individual tweet attributes. So I've got a date that the tweet was created, an ID for the tweet, some text, the actual name of the user who created the original tweet, and then their screen name inside Twitter. So all of these fields I'll map into that case object inside Salesforce. Now, we're okay with that. That plugin's fine. So now let's navigate to an actual data service. So we're going to create a data sync service. Okay, and I have a tweet search service that I've already created here, but let's go through all the steps that I went through to actually create that. So the first step is to just name my integration, and I'm just going to insert for today. So we literally just insert that data straight into Salesforce. My second step is to actually decide where are my arguments going to come from. So I have a flat file called search criteria. So you can create one of these flat files just with a single row and a header column which gives some names to the different arguments that you're going to be putting through. So I was searching for Lance Armstrong a while back. He was quite I guess a funny guy to read on Twitter. He had a lot of ridiculous things he would say. We won't be doing Lance Armstrong today. We'll change that for the hashtag Mondays and have a look and see what that is all about. So the third step, I need to decide where is that data actually going to go to. So we want the results from this Twitter search to go into Salesforce.com as a case object. So I've connected into my Salesforce account. I've then chosen the case object inside Salesforce. And currently there are no cases in there, so we're going to populate that and see how easily we can do that integration. So to step 4, we could do a data filter. We don't really need to do something like that for today. We're just going to keep things simple and look at how we actually use plugins and actually map the results from a plugin. So the first thing, now I've already set this up. So if I remove that plugin, okay, I'll just remove that. Now this is how it would typically look when you create a data sync service in Informatica Cloud. You would have your source on the left hand side and your target on the right. So this is a flat file going into my case. Clearly this is incorrect. We don't want to put arguments from our flat file straight into the case object. It just wouldn't add any value to what we were doing. So we actually want to use that plugin that I was talking about earlier. So you do that by hitting the add plugin button. So I click that. You then get a list of the plugins that are currently available in your account. So we need the actual Twitter search feed plugin. I say OK for that, and now what's happened is that plugin has been slotted in between the source and the target system. So if we look back at our slide here, we've got a source on the left, target on the right, and in between that plugin has slotted in with our functionality that will allow us to search Twitter. So this is a great way, even if you're not looking at social aspects, maybe you have your own third-party web service, maybe you want to expand the availability of what's out the box with Informatica Cloud, you can use this plugin architecture to do all of that. Okay, so let's jump back into our plugin. So now what we do is we have a new view here where we have a drop down saying please map the values from your source going into the plugin. So these are all the arguments going into that Twitter search plugin. So we've got things like what's the page index that we want to use. So I could map page index straight into there, page size, query. We won't map query. I'll actually hard code query. So I'll put in a hashtag for Mondays. Okay, so we're searching for anything where somebody's tweeted Mondays. We could then say result type, map that inside. Since date, we could put into since, and then since ID straight into since ID. Okay, so we didn't even have to map all these arguments. I could just put in a blank value in there. So there is nothing. Okay, since ID is cool, result type, let's say for result type, we actually want a result of mixed. So that is popular results mixed in with the most recent tweets from Twitter. Okay, just makes it look a little bit more interesting. Page index, I'll hard code this to 1. Okay, and then page size, let's say we want at least 100 tweets for each of our search requests. Okay, so we've now finished step 1. We were taking source arguments, mapping them into the plugin. Now we need to do something with the results. So now I click on this drop down and I say, alright, plugin into the target. So we'll take all those results, so the date the tweet was created at, the name of the tweet, the screen name, the text, and the tweet ID. So we're going to map all of these fields to particular values inside our case object. So most important one that I would start off with is the tweet ID. Map that to your tweet ID, and you'll actually see Informatica Cloud will signify that this is an external ID. So that's a way to ensure that you don't pull in any duplicate tweets, which is very likely with something like Twitter. So we've got our tweet coming through. We can say, all right, the origin of this data is actually from Twitter. So a nice way just to segment where all these different cases are coming from. What's the next thing we should map in here? So description, we could put in the actual text in the description, or we could put in reason, okay, and subject. Let's put that into subject as well. Now, if we wanted to put in the name of the person who actually made this tweet originally, let's put that into reason. So let's do a concatenation of the screen name with the text. So I'll just drop that onto text, and that concatenates the two together. So if we look in there, I can say, okay, let's concatenate. We'll put in another bit of a concatenation in there, and we'll say concat. Let's put screen name. Alright, concatenate that into this other concatenation. We'll put a space between the two with a dash, just to make it a little bit more readable. And then we've got our text, and then finally we'll close off that expression. Okay, so that's validated without any problems. So we've got a screen name, putting on the text, and then the actual name, the actual author, the person who actually originally created this tweet, we could put that into, let's say, supplied company or supplied name. Okay, so we'll put that into there. Now, created at, we could put that into mod timestamp. Let's drop that in there. Just make sure these types are correct. What is that? That is a string. That's a string as well, so we're okay. Okay, so looks like we are done with this this case. Let's make sure we've got all of the required fields. It looks like we do. Okay, and now we could actually run this on a schedule, but we don't need to do that for today. We're just going to run this manually. Okay, so as soon as that status schedule comes up, we'll just save that tweet, and we're now ready to actually execute this integration. So one more time to recap, we're pulling away from a flat file, going into a plugin. The plugin will search Twitter. So let's just double check and ensure. Let's look at the tweets that are coming through from Twitter. So for Mondays, we've got various people just jabbering away on Twitter about Mondays. Now let's run that task. There's my tweet search. I hit that, and right now Informatica Cloud is sending the instructions down to a secure agent. That secure agent is pulling some arguments from our source. It's actually then making the requests via the plugin to Twitter, and then it's actually mapping everything into Salesforce. Now, we've got an error there, so we've had 100 error rows, so it sounds like I haven't mapped something correctly. So let's have a quick peek and see what's gone wrong over there. Let's have a look. Default port. Okay, my system modification timestamp. So it doesn't like my mod timestamp value. Okay, so I'm just going to remove that. So I'll jump back into my tweet. Let's edit that. And let's get rid of that timestamp field. So mod timestamp, let's get rid of that. Okay, we'll just save that and let's run that tweet search again. Okay, well, it looks like that was a success. So we pulled through 100 rows. So those are our various tweets. And now let's have a look at the results inside our cases. So let's refresh those cases and we can see straight away all of the different tweets have started coming through. Okay, now let's open up one of these. Let's see if there's anything amusing that these people have written about. Okay, so let's see, someone said here Mondays. They come around too soon. Okay, so that's from somebody called Paul Martin, Raw Storage. And we can see the subject of what they've been saying, the description. We've actually mapped in our case reason, we've concatenated the two together just to make it a single readable field. Our tweet ID is there, so this is almost like a timestamp in Twitter. So you can say anything that's greater than that tweet ID, only show me results, okay, that are greater than this particular ID. So that's a great way to use that as your vector. And that is pretty much how you build integration between Salesforce.com and something like Twitter using Informatica Cloud. Alright guys, so if there are any questions or anything like that, please use the comments below, or you can visit community.informatica.com and visit the particular cloud section that we have available there. And thanks very much for watching this and hope it's been useful. Cheerio guys.